No, I mean, he's, I think just kind of the normal, gets beat up a little bit playing and everything, and so he did more of a kind of lifting and body type work and that type of stuff. And I'm not anticipating anything, but he plays hard and gets kind of banged around.
I asked Paul how his hip came out of last night and today, and all he would tell me is a hip is a hip. Can you offer any more insight? I'm
going with Paul. I don't, I think it's, something that we'll kind of just do our best to stay on top of and, make sure he's feeling well and, thinking of the big picture at the same time.
You get much sense that Baze is feeling a lot of pressure pressing?
No, it's interesting. He's such a competitive, person, has such a competitive makeup, and I think, of course, he'd like to be playing better, and but I think he's, in some ways, he wants it so badly. So that's what I sense more than anything. Just, and I think if he could relax and just play, but easier said than done sometimes.
When you give a player a contract like that, and you're projecting, well, you think he's going to develop into is that sort of a risk that sort of management coach runs about giving a contract to a guy like that and hoping he doesn't with the money that he just looks at his game? There's a question there somewhere.
Yeah, I was with you all the way till the very
okay,
end.
All right. Well, then just answer any part of that.
Right.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's definitely something that we, think about, kind of discuss, and I think we feel like Baze is going to get better. That he what he's done to date is not his best, and he's going to improve, and his game and just everything, the mental aspect of the game, the playing more minutes, making reads, making decisions. I think we all feel like he's going to be a better player, and so when you give somebody like him a contract like that, that's important. Sometimes you reach guys that they've kind of maybe topped out and they're still really good and they're going to stay at that level, but there's always, you can never be sure which direction guys are going to go.
I'm sure when you guys started on into the coach and head of operations side, you thought, okay, there's going to be a leveling off here, but are even you surprised by what's happened since then?
Yeah, I mean, I think none of us would have expected to, whatever it is since 9-2. I think we all have high expectations and high standards, and so this is a little bit of uncharted waters or unexpected, but I think the spirit of the guys, especially last night, I thought was a step in the right direction. Even nobody likes the result, but I think if you're process oriented or process aware, then last night you can kind of live with, and we need to get better.
By my records, this is your first home practice in 22 days.
You're not the first person to point that out to me.
Okay. But seriously, is that a part of just trying to go back over the details? Can that make that big of a difference, I guess, or is that part of the issue?
I don't. Yeah, I would just say, and we talked about it a little bit. It is a small, or it is a part of the issue. I think I'd probably be a little bit stubborn, a little bit obstinate to not say that's not how you draw it up, but to say that can be the explanation or the reason, you'd be we would be very short-sighted, and we would not be looking at ourselves honestly.
You're still ranked second in the league in defensive efficiency, but I think the last 9-10 opponents have hit double-digit three-pointers on you. Is that an issue? The defense, at least at the three-point line?
The whole time that we've been here, the three-point line is something we want to be good or better as far as reducing the numbers, but sometimes there's the activity and there's our commitment to just really containing, controlling the ball, taking away the paint, taking away the rim, that can open up maybe a few more, whether it be attempts and or makes. And I think we just always are looking at that really critically. So it's not like cut and dry. It's terrible. Sometimes the things we're doing, it's the net gain is greater.
Right.
But for sure, it's something we look at.
Mike was saying too, the ball movement has kind of gone away. That was, that's obviously what you're known for, and this team has been known for. What's going on there, and how do you kind of solve that? All of a sudden, the team sort of get out of the mode of the extra pass.
Yeah.
Why do you think they sort of fell into that?
You know, I think we're probably just more focused on how do we correct it, how do we be better going forward. And I would say we've looked at a little bit more film being at home. We've had a little bit more practice time. Even I would say yesterday's shoot around was almost more of a practice. And that's where I think, you know, it felt like there was a step in that direction with the ball movement and the player movement last night. And, you know, I think sometimes you just have to keep hammering that drum. And I've probably got to do a better job. It's only your identity if that's what you do. It's not something you can talk about. You have to do it. And I don't think it's been as good as we need it to be. And that's obviously, I think, what Dwight is referring to.
When you talk about playing with pass, in the fourth quarter when they switched the pick and rolls and Dennis on Steven Adams, does that make it harder to play with the pass at that point?
Well, we kind of have a few. We're not any different than a lot of teams. I think at times it does, but we would like to continue to move the ball. I guess you could say there's a few different ways we could attack it, and one of them is still to move the ball, still get another pick and roll, still try and create the confusion, just the indecision on are they switching, they not switching. But there are going to be times when it becomes a little more static and a little less ball movement. And we'd like to move it to get to that situation, and then hopefully make good things happen there.
Because one guy who hasn't necessarily underperformed has been Tim Hardaway Jr. What are just your takes on just him the past couple games and how he's kind of been able to continue to score in clutch moments for you guys?
Yeah, I think when he's aggressive, and including the defensive end, I think when you watch film and you see him competing on that end and really active, it's like interesting how it carries over to the offense and he's attacking the basket. And I think that's what's unique about Tim. He's not just a shooter. He can get out in transition and get to the basket and finish. He can get to the basket in the half court, and then obviously he can shoot. So he can kind of score in different layers and be aggressive in different layers. And when he's doing that, we're a lot better team.
How does having a guy who's dealt with adversity like he has, having just last season struggling to get on the court, then being able to play this well this year, help with a team that's kind of going through a tough stretch now?
Well, I think it helps in that, I do think he's played well, but he's had his moments too where we'd like more from him, and we need him to be better. And so I think if we get on him, or he goes through maybe that game or that quarter or that stretch where he's not as good, he's got something he can draw on where he's like, no, I can do this, and there's a lot of confidence. And so whether it's me getting on him or him getting on himself, I think he can pull and correct himself a lot quicker after last year.
With the lineup change, obviously Kyle still played a ton of started last night. What are you hoping to get out of that move, and what did you see at least in that first game at least with kind of trying to switch things up a bit, bringing him off the bench?
Yeah, I think it can be better for our team. That's always how you have to make decisions, but I think this case it can be better for Kyle individually too. And I think just he gets to see the game a little bit, gets to see the rhythm, the flow of it. Come in, maybe shake free a little easier, whoever. There's just a different feel to coming off the bench, I think, for the teams defending us, for Kyle coming in. And a little different mix of combination. I think Thabo, the way he's played on both ends of the court, I think can complement the first group too. So we'll see.
Could the lineup still be in flux a little bit?
Not really, but I guess I could never paint myself into a corner completely. But I think Thabo was, we've started him a couple times. We started him last year, I think in the last couple playoff games, and it's something that we've talked about. And I think as long as that group's functioning well and the second group is functioning, then that's kind of our hope. It's not a short term.
You like Tim coming off the bench?
Yeah, I would say for now that's how we feel. Yes.
Do you consider that those 5 starters now your 5 best defenders?
Yeah. I mean, I would. I don't want to undersell any of the guys,
No.
but if you're thinking about position by position, that's probably our 5 best defenders.
Does it? You've kind of gone through some of the big changes y'all did in the offseason, looking at Dwight and obviously kind of committing to Dennis. Does that add any pressure when you're going through a tough stretch like this? I mean, I don't know, you probably get a little giddier than usual when you're 9-2 and it looks like, oh, this is all working out beautifully. Does it work the other way too, that you kind of want the guys to, don't lose faith that we made some big changes, but just because we're going through some tough time? I don't know, does it add a little bit of burden or pressure on things? Make it a little tougher to get out of the hole?
Well, I would say maybe tougher. I guess every team or every player, all of us are dealing with pressure to some degree. I wouldn't say more pressure, but just because there's a little bit of, the uniqueness of adding, Dennis as the starter and then Dwight as a new player. We haven't been together. I think all those things that everybody asked to start the season. I'm hoping that we have enough guys that have been here, that have been through it, that we can, kind of self-correct. But is it maybe a little bit tougher? Could be.